When you're picking a poem to recite for school, whether it's for a book report or a school assignment, maybe it's a good idea to pick a shorter poem, because if you do a really long poem, it's going to be difficult to remember. Been there, done that, never want to go back. Hi everybody, it's Mena. Welcome back to my channel. Or if this is the very first video that you're seeing of me, then welcome to my channel. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button down below if you didn't already. I post every day except for Tuesday and Friday afternoon sometimes. And today in this video, I have another story time for you. And today's story time is going to be the time I tried to pick a really long poem to do for an assignment for school. And this is the story that kind of goes with the story about how my classmate had trouble remembering a poem he was reciting for our English class. I mean, not our English class, our class. And if you want to see the full story, I'll link that down below if you didn't see. So this is a story about how I was really excited to do this poem, recite this poem for my class, but the problem was the poem was too long and I barely could remember it, so it took me forever to recite it, so I had to switch to a shorter poem. So this is a story just to let you guys know, if you ever have a very short-term memory and you can't remember really long things, it's probably a good idea to try to do something shorter so it's easier for you. I know I definitely learned from this mistake, and I was glad I picked a shorter poem because I was able to remember the poem quickly. So I'm going to get started, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. So this all started about 20 years ago. My teacher assigned us to do a book report on a book of poetry, and this is when I was in the 4th grade. I forgot to mention that. And it was our assignment. So we had to read a full poem book and pick a poem that we liked from the book. I had picked this book called Where the Sidewalk Ends that was filled with pretty silly poems. If you guys haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's a pretty interesting poetry book. And I decided, and after I finished reading the book, I pretty much finished the book quickly, like within almost a week or two. And I wanted to do this poem called Captain Hook, which I will recite for you very quick.
Captain Hook must never learn to scratch his toes. Captain Hook must never learn to pick his nose. Captain Hook must learn to be careful when he's playing tag.
So that's all that I remember from that poem. I haven't read it in so long, and when I tried to recite it, I had to recite the whole poem. The problem was the poem was so long for me to recite that I could not remember the next part. And I still can't even remember the next part because I have not read it in so long. And I kept trying and trying and trying and trying. And then my mom decided, how about you read a shorter poem that's easier for you to remember? So I decided to go with this poem that was called Ridiculous Rose, which I will recite for you guys really quickly.
Ridiculous Rose. Her mama said don't eat with your fingers. Okay, so Ridiculous Rose associate with her toes.
So that was pretty much the only short poem that I could find from that book. And it was really easy for me to remember, and I was able to memorize it after a couple practices. And after I finished the poem, I created like a little pyramid thing where I had what the poem was about. And I don't even think I have it anymore. I think I probably might have thrown it away. And so when I did the pyramid thing, I drew pictures of what the poem was about and then made it like a little pop-up thing and put it into the little pyramid thing. When you turned it around, it said the poem and stuff. So that's kind of how it worked. I wish I had an actual picture to show you guys because I am not the best at describing, but honestly, that was the best I could do to describe it. So once the day of the poetry project came, I recited the poem and I was able to remember it after the amount of times that I had practiced it to get it to work really well. And it was just really easy for me, and everybody enjoyed my poem despite the fact it was a really short poem and everyone in my class did really long poems. I just decided to do that shorter one just because it was so easy for me to memorize without having to look at the my pyramid itself, like one of my classmates did. Like I said, I have a full story about that, which I'll link down below if you didn't see, and everybody enjoyed my presentation. So the moral of the story is, if you don't really have a photographic memory and you can't memorize like songs too well that are so long, poems that are so long, it's probably a good idea to probably do a report or recite a poem that's very short so it's easier for you to remember, and then you don't have to worry about memorizing it and looking back on what the poem's about. So then you can recite the poem yourself in front of your class in case you have an assignment of where you have to recite a poem. So just keep that in mind to make it easy for yourself and also easier on your class. So that was a story about how I almost did my book report on a very long poem that I couldn't remember. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I post every day except for Tuesday and Friday afternoon sometimes, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye.
Also like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe please.